Hey everybody, welcome back to Cuddles R Us. Today we're going to be going over a couple of things in the AMA. So let's get into it. So recently, Funcom and Dune Awakening, they did this essentially Q&A on Reddit, right? Where you posted your questions and then, they answered them. I do feel like a lot of these questions were like a toss-up, and they were a lot of things that we already know about, right? So I'm not gonna sit here and waste your time with that, but the link's in the description if you want to go read all of them yourself. There were a couple of things that I did want to touch on though. One is the fact that we are going to be getting a console launch at the end of 2026. So that is kind of huge news to come out of this, which means console will just have to wait another year before, they'll get their release. So don't hold your breath. If not, get a PC. It's just better anyway. So one of the other things that I wanted to touch on was the fact that they aren't going to be limiting the hotbar and how many weapons you can have on your hotbar. So people will be allowed to have as many shotgun sniper rifles as they see fit. So do keep that in mind when you're engaging into PvP. It is something to consider. Most of the questions that were asked, if they didn't have an answer, they said it's something to think about. No current plans at this time post-launch. So it is relative. So one of the things that caught my attention was the fact of they essentially announced that there wasn't gonna be any privacy protections on your base building. So when you use the replicator to replicate your base so you can sell it on the marketplace, somebody can then buy that blueprint, right? Make that building, and then essentially sell it back. They can make duplicate copies of it and then sell that on the exchange to make more money. There are no protections for that. So that is one of the things that you may want to think about when looking at, selling your blueprints. Okay. Or, you know what? That could be one of the things that you make money on. Like you copy somebody else's work. That's up to you. But it's not part of their scenario. They did touch on another thing, that if you visit your if you visit your friend in a Haga Basin, you will not be able to, the only things you can carry back to your instance will be the stuff that you have on you. So you cannot fill up a thopter, you can't fill up a bike, you can't fill up any equipment. All right, and then travel back to your world to have that. It's just not going to happen. So if you have it in your inventory, you can take it back with you, which is going to limit you on how much stuff you can take back at any given time. So do keep that in mind. They were talking about military ranks, but like I said, it's another toss-up. It's something they're not considering until post-launch. I don't really see a lot of them doing any of that stuff, right? So another thing is, like I said, it was a lot of toss-up questions about, the beta max player size. They did touch on server size. So each server will have 20 sieches. Each siege can have 40 players. So if you do the math, that's 800 players that share the same deep desert. All right. So that is a lot of people that are going to be sharing the same instance as the deep desert as you. So do keep that in mind. It's not as many people as some of the other MMOs that have been put out, like New Worlds, like Throne and Liberty, the one that just released, like BDO. You're not going to see all these people in that massive place. You're only going to see 800 people. So it is massive. It is a multiplayer, and it is online. So I mean, I guess they got that one. They do touch on the fact that you're going to be able to do customization, but they're looking at doing that for like your character, like your face, your hair, your stuff like this. You might be able to change that later on, but that's not something that we're going to be able to do right now. But you know, it is what it is. There was somebody that posted a question about the deep desert and having one of those skills or one of the decrees making PvP non-existent for that week. I think this is a great idea. They said it's something that they would consider, not something that's in the game at the current point in time. But that is huge news if they do implement that. That would be massive because they have a full drop for the Landsrad, for winning the Landsrad. There is a full drop one. But to say that there's going to be no PvP this week, that might be huge. So do look out for that. And I want to touch on this a little bit because it's a great idea, right? You have a full drop, then you have a zero tolerance, right? You can still go to the shipwrecks and go to the other places inside the deep desert and still have PvP. Just no PvP in the open desert. I think that would be a fantastic idea, and I hope they do that. They did touch on private servers a little bit. Now, they did state that it was going to be you're going to pay for the Haga Basin. You're not going to pay for the full server. So and anybody that pays for a private Haga Basin for their guild or for, you know, people that they want to play with, you will still share a deep desert with other people that have paid for paid for the private Haga Basin server. So keep that in mind. It is not something that, you know, you know, a lot of people might do that. So we'll look into that. There was somebody that asked if we're going to be able to preload the game prior to launch day, and they're just outright question is, yeah, you'll be able to do that. So make sure you order the standard or any edition that you want and go ahead and pre-order or preload the game right before launch, so then that way you're ready to go the moment it launches live. So they did mention that you'll be able to collect all the blueprints without having to betray your faction, but that's not in the game at the moment, so keep that in mind. They are saying that the third faction, they aren't releasing many details before launch, but there will be interactions with that faction system in the Landsrad in a unique way. So keep that in mind. We'll see that later on in launch. It's nothing that they really touched on. So they were planning, like somebody asked about planning for, you know, them disconnecting or going on vacation or something like this. And essentially their thing is like, you have 2 weeks, then your shields will come down, then your base will be unshielded from the sandstorms and will start to be destroyed. It's a slow process. Every wall inside, you know, everything gets done, but they just recommend that you put a blueprint of your base so when you come back, you can just rebuild it. We will also be streaming this game because that was one of the questions. This weekend is open, NDA free. So we'll be able to show you everything that's available inside the 3 zones. They're essentially, everything else is still under NDA, but those 3 zones are fully unlocked for everybody to talk about. And that's really all of the stuff that I would really like to touch on. But if you like this content, please do hit like, subscribe. It really helps us out, and I really do appreciate everybody. Leave a comment below. What do you think? Did you read all of it? If not, leave it in a comment below. And if you're actually looking to see what the game is like, you can come follow us on Twitch, where we will be streaming this game live when it comes out, or the beta when it comes out that night. I won't be streaming during the day. I will be streaming when I get home from work, so do keep that in mind. But with that said, have a good one, and I'll see you in the dunes.